Okay, so we have Jonathan and Alexis. We have an amber steel deck and a sapphire steel deck, which is a really fun matchup. I'm very excited to see how this is going to go. Our players are starting by doing their hand altering, where they draw their 7 cards. They're able to make some changes. Whatever they don't want, they can send back, try for some new cards, maybe something they're more interested in having compared to what they started with.
Yeah, absolutely. And so Emerald Steel, one of my favorite decks in the game. Taking a look at some of the cards that are going to be in this matchup and the cards that are in hand, a little bit of a different build than the ones that I'm used to playing, but this one has a lot more characters to be played, a lot cooler things to be doing on that side of the board, while on the other side, we have Amber Steel, which we're going to be trying to sing some songs here, do some cool stuff, and in this matchup, I think I would rather be on the Amber Steel side. I'm not super happy about being on the Sapphire Steel, because one of your problems sometimes can be if a deck gets out really fast underneath you and you don't have one of your cards like Grab Your Sword, you don't have your Tinkerbells, anything like that, is sometimes you can get pretty far behind early and not find a way to catch back up.
Absolutely. When you see ramp decks like this Sapphire Steel, they sometimes take some time because they prioritize getting cards in their inkwell. So it takes them some time to really get going, and they really shine in mid to late game. Whereas our Amber Steel is more of a consistent, just mid-range sort of style of play.
Yeah, but this is it's still anybody's game. I mean, the Sapphire Steel deck can definitely still play. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, there's definitely still cards in some of the builds that are really good. I mentioned Grab Your Swords. If you have something like Fire the Cannons, Ba-Boom, multiple copies of Ba-Boom early, taking care of an early Cinderella or something like that is it's a big checkpoint in this game, because that could be some of the biggest problems is if there's a good 1-drop out of Alexis into starting to sing songs as soon as turn 2, that's where it starts to get really far ahead. And if you're going to see a 1-drop, Robin Hood is one of the ones where you're like, okay, I'm okay with this one until it gets shifted. It's not that bad.
Yes. Before he gets into his Champion of Sherwood form, he is pretty easy to deal with.
Yeah, that card's a problem.
Yes.
But this one, it's played mostly as, hey, it's a good 1-drop, it's inkable, but it gets me to my Sherwood a lot faster.
Yeah. Absolutely. And even if we see kind of Amber Steel pulling ahead, the Sapphire Steel can turn on a dime.
I like it.
Yeah, I thought that was good. And it can change the tempo of the game extremely quickly. So a lot of times with these Sapphire decks, they're not out till they're out.
Yeah, you say go ahead with the bare necessities here on turn 2, and sometimes you can against Sapphire Steel. Generally, you're going to snag a song. There's a decent bit of songs here, but it looks like with Jonathan's build, he's got a few more extra characters here, a little more lower to the ground in his build. So bare necessities whiffed there.
It did. Surprising.
These cupboards were bare. There were no songs in here to have.
Bear. Playing Mr. Smee, a really fantastic steel character for only a cost 2, is a 3/3 quest for 2. But of course, anything that powerful must have an Achilles heel, and if he is exerted at the end of your turn and you don't have a captain in play, he takes 1 damage.
So we were talking about this the round before. I think Shmi is one of the better steel cards around. It's
Absolutely.
For rate, it's one of the best ones. But can we talk about how sad the ability is? He just wants his captain.
He just wants to be led.
He just wants his bro. He just wants to hang out.
Absolutely.
And they're not around, and it does a little damage to him. It's a little unfortunate. Speaking of that Robin Hood, Captain of Sherwood, there he is on turn 3. This is a little bit of the nightmare for Jonathan. No easy ways for him to take care of this Robin Hood this early in the game.
Absolutely. When Robin Hood banishes something in a challenge, you get 2 lore, and if he's banished in a challenge, you get to draw a card. So he basically replaces himself. We're inking another Smee, which is interesting. Although Jonathan's generally in a Sapphire Steel deck, you'll see Cogsworth Grandfather Clock, which has that resist +1, which is able to kind of mitigate any damage that would be Mr. Smee, making it truly strong.
Yeah, absolutely. And this version from Jonathan is actually probably the better Cogsworth version of this deck. Is the version that I play, I have a little less characters in my 2, 3, and 4 slot, and Cogsworth sometimes can not be that great. Besides the fact that it sings a song, and every now and then the resist comes up. But when you have more 2s, 3s, and 4s, this is making Cogsworth a much more impactful card, which I kind of like, because that's always been a thing that I've struggled with in some games with Sapphire Steel. Is I'll have Cogsworth, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to play this, and it's not really having that much. It's not having as much impact as say like my opponent's 5s, like this Robin Hood that's sitting here. And we see a Lawrence in play too.
Yes. Lawrence is such a fun card. I've been seeing people play him more and more because he's a 0/4 quest for 2. As long as he has no damage on him, he gets a +4 strength, which is very powerful into a lot of matchups.
Yeah, we were just talking about how good this Shmee for 3, 3/3 Shmee for the questing for 2 is. Well,
Yeah.
this is a little bit better. This goes up to 4.
Yeah. Lawrence feasts me. Lawrence is going to take that one to start.
Absolutely. So looks like we're going to go ahead and use the Fishbone Quill here. Thinking about what he wants to get rid of, I think you're going to want to get rid of one of these Haversams.
Yeah.
But so you have a backup copy if you want it, but the aforementioned Cogsworth is going to come into play here.
Grandfather Clock resists to the entire board +1, and he has Ward. So he's immune to some song shenanigans on Alexis's side.
Yeah, really important that you can't have Along Came Zeus kind of run into this right away, or any of those immediate songs that would kind of punish you for this play. And yeah, Cogsworth does a lot of extra work here, and then now we see Alexis going to go ahead and quest up. And this is a pretty big quest lead. We got 9-0, and this is what I'm talking about a little bit with these matchups.
That's great. Yeah, having 6 lore on board, some very powerful characters. You have, 2 6 willpowers and a 4. I don't know how much Jonathan has, at least in terms of his characters.
All right, so Jonathan does have one of like the wombo combos in the blue steel deck here, where he has Grab Your Sword and Tinkerbell, and can possibly do both of them here this turn. The thing is he's gonna have to do a little bit more. So it'll do 3 damage to all the characters. So he can use that plus Shmee to trade into the Robin Hood. He can maybe pick off the Lawrence as well, because it won't have any strength afterwards, because it'll have damage on it. And maybe this board gets a little bit cleaned up from that spot. I think Jonathan's really lamenting the fact that he might have to give up his other Haversam here to do it.
Yeah.
So he won't have any card draw behind this.
Yeah, and that Hiram Flowersham card draw engine is just so essential in this deck. So it definitely we had to sacrifice one into the Inkwell, and it might have to happen again. But this combo, I think, will definitely be worth it. Tinkerbell Giant Fairy coming out. 1 damage onto everybody.
All right, he's going to go ahead and he's going to use the damage to put it on Lawrence. He's going to trade. He's going to challenge the Shmee into the Lawrence here to take care of that. Now, there's 1 damage left on each one of the Robin Hoods, and he's going to go ahead and keep back the Draw Your Swords, because it would actually put the Cogsworth a little bit into harm's way, and I think that's something that he didn't want to have happen here.
Yeah, an exerted Cogsworth is fairly vulnerable.
Now, this does allow the Robin Hood to go ahead and put a damage onto the Shmee, though.
Oh, and playing the Rapunzel, being able to heal up some of that damage and draw cards in the process always feels good.
Yeah, one of the more powerful plays in this deck. Rapunzel is not only a card that's super impactful now. I have a feeling going into set 5, you're gonna be seeing Rapunzel a lot. This is gonna be one of the more impactful cards that isn't from set 5. I think Amber is posed to make some big waves in Constructed, and just great here. You see getting to remove 3 damage counters, draw 3 cards here. A very, very powerful card.
Absolutely. And taking out the Smee was fantastic, giving Alexis some more lore. Playing the Sleepy's flute now, so anytime we get songs, we're going to get lore there. So Alexis is in a really, really, really good spot here. We talked earlier, though, about how sometimes Sapphire Steel gets some time to work, but towards this later game, it has huge moves, huge characters, your Tamatoas, your Lucky Dimes. These can make such a huge impact on this play.
Yeah, we'll see how Jonathan wants to do this to start. I didn't catch the other cards, and he still has that Grab Your Sword.
Yes.
Here, it looks like an Argus was the last card. All right, so here we go. This gets to be a pretty big, impactful turn. So Tinkerbell is going to challenge into the Robin Hood. Then it's going to deal the 2 damage to, I guess, the Robin Hood as well. The damage is going to go into this, and then Grab Your Sword is going to help clean this up quite a bit. Looks like Argus and then grab your sword is going to get sung. So this is going to go ahead and take care of both of the Robin Hoods. I love this patience from Jonathan here to be able to take care of both of these, leaving Alexis with just a Rapunzel in play.
Yes, with 2 damage on her. Yeah, just that being able to make those moves, think ahead, know what you're going to do is just fantastic. And that Argus, I mean, he only has 1 willpower, but he can do 4 damage. And with the resist +1, that puts him as a pretty fierce contender.
Yeah, it's a card in Blue Steel that they've been playing as answers to a lot of the early drops out of other decks and stuff. This isn't really a matchup where it like necessarily shines. It does, trade really well and challenges that works out well. But you know what's better than 1 Rapunzel?
2 of them.
Yep. Speaking of 2, drawing 2 cards here off this as well. It's going to go ahead and, all right. So along comes Zeus. Is going to take care of the Tinkerbell here as well. Nice song to be sung there for Alexis, and he's starting to get back up on the board quite a bit here. Ariel, this is the card where it's really going to get the stuff going too. So another card that I think is going to be absolutely great with set 5 here as well. Ariel's going to go ahead and find a song off the top. He's going to be able to sing practically every song in Alexis' deck. Most of the time they can sing every single song here. Now the flute gets active. The flute's going to be active again next turn. This is how Alexis' deck really gets humming.
Absolutely. Gaston, intellectual powerhouse coming down. Some of the best art in the game. And I love that is, the most un-Gaston is him being smart.
Great name, great art, just no notes. When I look at this no notes. Just absolutely perfect.
Yeah. He quests for 3, and when you play him, you look at 3 cards at the top of your deck and put 1 into your hand. So a lot of these Sapphire Steel, we use a lot of cards, especially in Sapphire, that allow you to kind of comb through your deck, find the resources you need when you want them, and such as like develop your brain in this one. And there's also a queen that does something similar. The dig a little deeper, sing together that we saw last game.
Yeah, we see a lot of that here as well. Gaston does it as well. Like you said, if we haven't seen if there's develop your brain in this. You've got popsicle stuff. So just Jonathan a lot on keeping the cards coming as much as he possibly can. We haven't seen it yet, but there's a whole new world of these lists a lot of times as well.
Yes.
So Jonathan wants to make sure that once he gets his ink advantage by playing these 1 jumps ahead, using these fishbone quills, that he has cards left over or can draw a ton of cards quickly to make sure that he gets to use that ink advantage instead of just running out of cards.
Absolutely. And we have not seen the 1 jump ahead, or I'm sorry, not the 1 jump ahead. We have not seen a whole new world yet.
I assume it's there with the way that Jonathan's deck built, but
most Sapphire Steels will be running it. And look, we got another Sleepy's Flute. So now each song will be giving 2 lore to Alexis.
Yeah, which means Alexis gets 4 here this turn off of that. Let the Storm Rage on, plus the Rapunzel quest. Rapunzel's done its job. You can go ahead and start questing away with this.
Yeah.
If your opponent wants to challenge this, think you're completely. Yeah, I was about to say I would do the same thing here. I think you have to just start questing as much as you possibly can here because these flutes, they're so inevitable. You're at 17 now, so all you have to do is pretty much sing 1 song or quest with 1 character for the rest of the game, and you've got it won.
And Ariel would be happy to do that anytime. Sign her up; she's ready.
So it looks like Titan's going to go ahead and take care of a Sleepy Flute. That's a big play for Jonathan here. If he's able to clean up this board quite well, that's going to slow Alexis down by possibly a full turn here in winning this game. And that's huge for Jonathan. But Jonathan's still at 0 lore.
Yeah. The 0 is a hard turnaround to come back from. But I mean, there are cards in his deck that could continue to make Alexis's job harder. It's just a matter of if he can catch up. The grab your sword.
All right, so it's going to put 1 damage on the Gaston, 2 on the Cogsworth, but that's going to, more importantly, get another lore here for Alexis. So moving ever closer to that 20.
Jonathan playing the Fortisphere. A McDuck Manor would have been great a while ago. The McDuck Manor is such a tanky boy. It has 9 willpower, which is basically infinite willpower against some decks. It's just so hard to take down, and it has 2 passive lore.
Yeah, that's going to do it for that game. It's a whole new world, so that's going to allow him to use the flute plus any of the cards that he draws off. He's going to be able to play a character.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
I think that's game 1 over to Amber Steel. You can see kind of where, we talked about going in, like where the problems in this matchup can kind of happen. We kind of saw it play out there. Got out to an early lead, got some singers to play, sang the songs. Flute did a lot of heavy lifting there.
Yes.
And even with the Tinkerbell grab your sword combo over 2 turns, wasn't able to really come back into that game just yet.
No, unfortunately not. But I'm hoping things might go differently this turn. We'll see how these players are able to kind of regroup, and we'll see if Jonathan's able to do something.
Yeah, absolutely.
here.
So let's go ahead and head on down to game 2 and see if Sapphire Steel is able to even up this match here.
Yeah.
Jonathan's going to keep a 3-card hand here, it looks like. He's got some powerful ones. I see a Fishbone Quill, a Haversam. It looks like he wants to keep a Cogsworth here as well. And that kind of makes sense. You saw how much Cogsworth, how much heavy lifting it did in that last game.
He got a lot of value out of that last game, for sure. And he did send back a whole new world. Some of these larger uninkable cards, they can clog up things a bit.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And to add on to that, Alexis has a whole new world in his deck as well. So
right.
At one point, when you both have a card like a whole new world, it's probably correct for one deck to shy away from playing it if the other one is incentivized to do so.
Yeah.
Because now you don't have to keep that card in your hand. You don't have to spend time or resources on playing it because your opponent's just going to do it for you. Though getting to dictate when it happens is kind of important as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and also when both players kind of have it, it becomes a sort of game of chicken where it's like, who's going to play it first? And like who can get the most value out of it?
It's like, are you going to do it? Am I going to do it? Like, it's a nice little dance on who's going to play a whole new world.
Absolutely. And both our players, looks like they have Grab Your Swords in their decks, which is another great kind of large uninkable song. Alexis probably has a better chance of getting some use out of that early.
We've seen some people make some deck choices this weekend around this card in particular. Talk about Grab Your Sword. A card that was very, very, very popular in this format pre-Bucky nerf. And we've seen it kind of come back a little bit. Decks that were running 4 or 3 or 2 of them are now running, 3, 2, or 1 of them. Like one less, maybe 2 less. And so that has given a rise to some of these decks that you've seen where, we've seen these decks be a little more aggressive. We saw Dakota Cotton earlier playing a very, very aggressive deck where almost all of his characters die to Grab Your Sword. But he's like, I'm not expecting to play against that card a ton.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, we got a Queen on one, a Popsicle on the other side. And
a textbook opening for a Sapphire Steel.
Absolutely. And I always get really worried when these decks lead on the Queen. Her Shift Queen, while only being a 4/3 and having kind of a fragile body, the effect that
dangerous.
Oh yeah, can absolutely flip a game on its head.
Oh, her sister's here, and we also have Robin Hood.
All right, we got the triple 1-drop start from Alexis here, so good starts from both players.
Absolutely.
Lots going on both sides. Tons of items in Jonathan's hand this time around. So if he does have a Haversam, he's going to be able to do a lot with it. But we'll have to see. He's going to have to. I'll say I've got to believe he's going towards the Fishbone Quill here. This turn.
Yeah, that would make sense for a turn 3 play. I always wonder playing these sort of ranked decks is like when you see your opponent putting all this stuff on their board, all these characters who are going to be like free to quest, and you're like, I'm getting nervous, but they know what they're doing. They know the cards they need to play when they play them. And turn 3, Fishbone Quill.
Yeah, speaking of knowing what cards you need to play when you need to play them, getting the 4th ink into play right here is super important because Grab Your Sword is in Jonathan's hand here, and that is going to be unbelievably impactful on the board if it stays anything similar, like if we don't have a shift to a bigger version of one of the characters that's in play.
Right.
If we don't have that happen, there's a chance Alexis loses all of his characters here next turn.
Yeah.
So I see Rapunzel, and I don't think I see any of the big shift stuff for Alexis here, so we'll have to see how bad this Grab Your Sword is going to be. Oh, wait, I think maybe... Nope, I thought that was a Robin Hood for a second. I think it's a Flute.
Yeah.
I saw the gray.
Which we like, but maybe not right now. Baloo coming out. Also a very fun card. I've been seeing it played a lot more, which I've loved this card since it came out. It doesn't have any strength, but it has that 3 willpower and a quest for 1. It can be a bodyguard, so you're forcing your opponent to come through it. And when it's banished, you gain 2 lore, which is huge.
Yeah, lots to like about this card. The fact that you can play it early to protect your, 1 and 2 drops to where you can make sure that you get to shift onto them possibly later. They get to stay around. They get to keep questing. It can protect your singers, which is really, really important as well. And then you still get value from it. If you were to play it and say, like, Jonathan had something to challenge here this turn, he has to challenge into the blue. And not only does it protect your other characters, you gain 2 lore for it on the way out, like you were saying.
Yes.
So, yeah. Definitely can love this card sometimes in these spots.
Yeah. Uninkables, probably its main downside.
Yeah. I'm always scared on how many uninkables I have in my decks. I try to shy away from having too many.
I also play very conservatively with there. You have like 3 uninkables in your hand and you can't play any of them.
Yeah.
And it's happened to me too often. I mean, it's probably a fairly universal experience and it's not fun.
I will say, I think we've all been there. We
Yeah.
all feel your pain right now.
Looks like Jonathan exerting his fishbone quill, able to ramp, and we see 5, and that is the grab your swords, doing damage all the way across Alexis's board. Only left is blue.
Yeah, this actually sets up pretty well for next turn as well. I think there's a Tinkerbell already in Jonathan's hand, and this leaves the 2 damage on the blue, and the Tinkerbell will be able to clean this up. Plus, if there's anything else from Alexis that possibly is one of the smaller characters, you might be able to pick that off as well. But it looks like a second blue here.
2 blues.
Hey, that's kind of rhymed a little bit.
A little bit. So now there's that 4 potential lore there when those get banished, which is a lot considering they have no strength, kind of just hanging out. But Jonathan, interested to see what he plays here. We mentioned the Tinkerbell being able to take everything out. I see he also has the Grandpa Cogsworth. He has the Flowersham. He has not been able to get Flowersham online during this match for his card draw.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see the Sapphire decks when and where they can get the Haversams and how impactful they can be. I feel like a lot of the decks over the last few months have really started to figure out how to punish or make that card non-desirable. You have brawls, you have cards that are taking care of it, or you learn to put enough things into play that if they were to play Haversam, draw two cards off of it, like that's not good enough. You're not actually progressing your board enough. You're not, questing enough for lore. Yeah, you're drawing cards, but I'll just quest up another 4 or 5 this turn, play a really powerful song, play a really powerful character. And yeah, you're going to draw all these cards, but you're taking up all this time doing that. It's still an absurdly powerful card. We want to play this when you get to have the start of like Popsicle into One Jump Ahead into Haversam. There's like not many decks that can keep up with that. That's one of the best openings this game has. But finding the right spot to put it in is interesting. And this is something I thought might happen here. What Jonathan's doing here is he's going to go ahead and play the Cogsworth and try to get a little more value off of that Tinkerbell possibly in the future because, Blues are questing for 1 apiece, but it's only 5-0 right now. And we saw last game, it was more like 10-0 at this point. So this game's a little more manageable.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Because that extra resist is just so good. And Jonathan, he's been playing this Cogsworth when he needs to play it. It's been so beneficial to him. So really love seeing that.
Yeah, so I was trying to catch which card he put into his inkwell there because he also has a Baboom in his hand. And depending on what characters are left over, but for Alexis next turn, he might be able to use Baboom plus Grab Your Sword to kind of sweep up the entire kind of board here. Yeah. All right, so Flute gets played.
Questing with both of the Blues. And so now, anytime Alexis plays a song, he gets a lure off of that.
And if that's all Alexis really has going on this turn was play a Flute pass, if I'm Jonathan, I'm feeling pretty good about where I am now.
Yeah, any turn that passes where an Amber or Steel Song deck does not play a song is not a great turn.
And so this is kind of ideal. He gets to play Tinkerbell and then challenge the Cogsworth into the blue that would be left over. So now there's no characters left over for Alexis.
Yes.
He's only at 7 lore here, so this Flute is actually not going to have the impact that he wants to have it on here. I think Jonathan is well ahead here now. Plus, he's just got a Haversam in his hand here to start drawing extra cards as soon as next turn.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a great place to be in. And also anything, if Alexis wants to play a song this turn, he's going to have to spend exactly what we saw right here. Unfortunately, Alexis had to spend ink it's always better to have a singer sing a song. So taking 5 damage, taking that out. But we did get the lore off of the Sleepy Flute.
Don't forget about that resist 1 coming in clutch here this turn as well, keeping that Tinkerbell around.
Yeah. So now she's just very damaged.
Yeah. Haversam going to come and draw 2 cards as well. So now the card quantity is going to be flowing for Jonathan as well here. Yeah, he feels good enough to go ahead and start questing. Going to get on the board here for the first time himself. And I think I see like a whole new world. I think Fire the Cannons. And is that another Tinkerbell in the hand? The movement is very fast on the Jonathan
I think you got it right. You don't see Fire the Cannons a ton these days, but very, very excited to see that.
Yeah, Jonathan has a very interesting build here. I'm actually kind of digging it. Like I need to come get his deck list from him.
Yeah, no, it's super cool. I love those like little damage. Oh, and bigger damage. We have the Grab Your Swords coming down, which will do, finally taking out that Tinkerbell, doing just a little bit of damage because we still have that resist on everybody else. And Alexis slowly getting that flute, getting him lore because there's nobody on the board.
And this is one of the spots, we talk about this a lot, where there's a giant lore advantage, right? Alexis is at 13, Jonathan's at 4, but I actually think Jonathan is extremely far ahead in this spot.
Absolutely, especially with the drop of the Tamatoa. Just incredible. He gets an extra lore for every item in Jonathan's hand. He's using the Hiram to banish the popsicles, to draw more cards, to feed the Tamatoa. It's gonna be crazy.
I was gonna say you make a really good point here. I think it's unbelievably good, and it's a very good engine in this deck that we talk about a lot, where you could use Haversam to cash in one of the items and then quest with Tamatoa, and you lose 1 lore, but you're gaining the item back and gaining 2 cards. So yeah, it's a really, really good spot to be in.
Alexis playing the Ursula Vanessa, so he does have a singer. Ursula, unfortunately, only a singer 4, so she could do a lot of the singing, but not all of the singing.
It's a little too late here.
Very likely.
I think. Yeah, I was going to say this board is in a dominating spot here for Jonathan.
And Jonathan has so much ink, and he has so many good cards in his hand right now. I see he drew a Beast Tragic Hero, which is excellent. There's a lot that it can be done here, and Alexis, I mean, he doesn't really have any sort of board wipe or anything that could really do a lot. I guess the Grab Your Swords, but even with the resist, that's not doing much. So,
I mean, let's talk about exactly what just happened here. So, Tamatoa quests for some amount of lore, gets back a popsicle in Jonathan. Jonathan plays a popsicle, draws a card off of that. Then he quests again with Haversam, draws 2 cards off the popsicle, going back to the discard pile that's going to just get back by the Tamatoa again next turn. Like, this alone is probably enough to carry him through the game. Not to mention there's a Cogsworth in play. Now we've got a Sad Beast in play. We've got an Argus in play. And he's just sort of dumping the hand here because he has so many things. And it's like, yeah, look, you can grab your swords. You can do whatever you want. I don't care. I've got so much stuff here. Resist is going to be doing a heavy lifting here. And I don't know if Alexis can even make it out of the next turn.
Honestly, that's exactly what the Sapphire Steel wants to do. Get all the resources, play everything, get all of the lore. And that's really, really what's happening.
Like, Alexis' deck is one of those decks that it chips away, right? It gets 2, 3, 4 lore a turn as the game goes on.
Yeah.
And Jonathan's deck is the deck that I'm going to have all of the lore for like 2 of the turns.
Right, exactly.
And then the game is going to end.
Yeah. But Alexis doing some quick math there.
Yep.
Shaking hands. Fantastic match.
Looks like it's going to be a 1-1 here for both the players, and you had to get another great example of like the decks doing what they're supposed to do. We saw Alexis' deck be aggro in one of the games, come out early, sing songs for cheap, and really